Hello, everyone. We have seen some feedback in our discussion forums. Thank you so much for providing your feedback on your experience engaging with our content. Many of you have made comment about the timelines that we have provided in Unit 2, and you are reporting some issues with visibility being small, too small to use, and some concerns with the PDF or PowerPoint presentation that were provided. So I first of all just want to take a moment and thank you very much for providing your feedback. We appreciate that. Second, as a method of troubleshooting this issue, I want to make sure that we are all on the same page and that you as learners are using the timeline tool to the best of its capability. And if you are, and you're still experiencing issues, then we'll happily keep talking with you until we get those issues resolved. I'll go ahead and click under Unit 2, under Art, Architectural History Lesson. One thing I first of all want to point out was to, again, thank you for your feedback on the PDFs that we have provided. I've changed those, so you will notice added March 16th. There's a new PDF for the 1400s. There's a new PDF for the 1500s, 1600s, and so on. So I have replaced the PDFs in the timeline art architectural history lesson pages. If you click on that, a new tab should load, and we've just, without any images, we've just loaded a list, essentially, of all the events from a particular century, or, let me close this, as well. When we get down to the big picture, there's a large PDF that covers from the 1400s through the 1700s. So I certainly hope that that's helpful for you, but again, if you have continued feedback, we welcome that always, and we will do our best to make sure that we're being responsive to you and trying our best to meet your needs. The second point that we need to talk about is the timeline and its visibility. And certainly if you look below here, the big picture timeline is the timeline that has certainly the most events. So there's lots of activity going on. This timeline runs from the 1400s all the way through the 1700s. Clearly what we're looking at here, you can't read any of that. If I click full size, we're going to go to a larger screen. And again, this doesn't get much more visible, does it? You can use the little white right-facing arrow over here on the right. If you click on that, it'll sort of move into a 3D mode, and it brings up the first event. And if I continue to click with that arrow, it moves me through this timeline. This is where you'll get to see the text a little bit more clearly. You'll get to see the images that we've provided. Going through this, I'm clicking repeatedly that right white arrow over here on the right, and it's moving me chronologically through all of the events on our timeline. I can also, though it's a little harder to see, use a left pointing white arrow. Very subtle over here. If you do click that, it will take you backward through this timeline. Another way of using this timeline is this orange horizontal bar here at the bottom. And notice as I move my mouse along, I get a little thumbnail. And as I move through here, if I find something of interest to me, let's go ahead and stop here. St. Peter's Dome is completed in 1590. If I click, it will jump and take me to that event. That's another way. Bernini was born in Naples. Let me click on that. It'll take me to that. So hopefully that makes it a little bit more palatable for you. We can return to edX here. If I go over to, let's say, for example, the 1400s, again though, even in the edX interface, I can use that orange bar running along the bottom to mouse over events, and those events are indicated just by that tall standing black line. And then if I move my mouse off, the orange bar sort of gets out of the way. Move my mouse over it and it stands up a little taller. Clicking on any of those events sort of brings that front and center. Now again, this will get even easier if I click full size screen. We know and certainly are very aware that you cannot read these events. They're quite small. This is not a change that we're likely going to make, because I think what you can achieve here is by using that orange bar at the bottom of the screen, you can much more easily see the events, you can read the font, and if you're interested in looking at the image or pulling that up in a more holistic way here, you can do that. And again, I would just remind you there are right-facing arrows and left-facing arrows. So if you simply just wanted to kind of click through this in chronological order and see what was happening in this century all around the world, but particularly in Rome, you can click chronologically through the timeline. However you want to engage with that, I hope that this video helped you a little bit. If you still find that you're having problems, for example, if you're viewing this on a phone or a smaller tablet versus a full-size computer screen, my next recommendation for you would be to lean on those PDFs that we've just updated. I hope this helps. If it does not address your concern, by all means, please post new questions or new concerns on our discussion boards. This would be a technical question that I'm going to go back here to our class. I would recommend that you go to the technical help forum and post your concerns there. But we're keeping an eye on all the discussion forums, so we'll find you wherever you go. Thank you so much for your time, and I hope you're enjoying your first week in class.